Hello and welcome to the first ever Break My Game podcast episode. I'm your host this fine evening. It's whatever time it is where you're listening to it. Right now it is evening, Matthew Hawker. Today I have Daniel Palmer joining us for the first episode, the inauguration episode, so to speak. He's going to be telling us a little bit about Break My Game. In fact, he founded Break My Game. Daniel, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're all about?
Well, my name is Daniel Palmer. I'm a Leo. I enjoy long walks on the beach. Hi, I'm Daniel, and I founded Break My Game. I really love playtesting and helping people design games, and um, yeah, that's a little bit about me. How much more do you want to know?
Daniel,
Social security number?
everything possible, as much as you can fill into this episode, anything really. But no, that sounds great as a starting point. I'm sure we'll dive deeper later on. Well, Daniel, first of all, thank you for creating Break My Game. It's been an awesome experience for me over this last year personally. I've been able to use it for playtesting constantly, which I've loved, and I know that I can see the passion that you've had for it kind of seeping through, and it's just been awesome to see. What got you started with creating like a playtesting group or a playtesting event? Like, how did it all start? Where did it begin? What's the origin story here?
Right. So 6 years ago, back in 2015, my friend and I were designing a card game and card game about zombies, and because we had our own comic book about zombies, and we wanted to keep building on that franchise, so we designed a card game based around our comic book. And the problem is that we would do awesome with getting playtesters during things like conventions and things like that, but we had a hard time trying to find playtesters outside of that. Conventions are pretty expensive, as you probably well know, and so we would try to go to like game meetups and Friday night meetups and things like that, and nobody ever wanted to play our game. They wanted to play what they came to play, which is usually like a Magic the Gathering or something like that, or they would want to play stuff that they already knew. They didn't want to learn something new. Um, Sometimes I would set up events at like a game shop, and people would, come by and they would be like, "Oh, that's cool, but I was really here just to buy this game for a birthday, and I gotta leave." And so I was like, what if I made an event that wasn't a Friday night meetup, didn't correspond with anything that's already there? Um, People were coming knowing that they were playtesting games, so that eliminates those excuses. And, let me get other designers involved, because I bet we would get more people coming. So I tried it. I tried the first Break My Game event in late January of 2015, and I really liked it. It worked. We had 4 or 5 designers show up. We had all of those designers to help each other play test games. We had a couple of people come in just play test games because they heard about the event. So I kept doing it, and we were advertising it, and we were building up a local market of people who felt passionate about it. And ever since then we just kept growing. So and then I really decided, hey, I like doing this a whole lot more than I like designing my own game. So I just kept going with it, and voila, Break My Game was born.
Wow, that is pretty neat. I think it's honestly, it's fascinating to me, just kind of the transition there, and it sounds like you kind of fell into a passion project, so to speak, that you didn't expect.
Yeah, I mean, there was a problem. I sought for a way to fix it, and I was like, man, I can fix this for a whole lot of people. And so this it did become like it was labor of love, you know, and it's been a lot of fun.
So, I guess regarding the name, when you were at these events, were you like asking people to break your game? Were you like, break my game? And then you were like, I'll keep that as the title.
No, no, that actually came from my designing partner, Martin Brandt. He was like, "Yeah, you're getting people to come play test. Why don't you just call it Break My Game?" And I was like, "Yeah, that works." So that's how I advertised the first one, and then I told him, "Hey, I'm gonna do another one that went so well," and he was just like, "Oh, I only thought you were gonna do this like once," and I was like, "No, in fact, we're just gonna keep naming it Break My Game." And then so he kind of came up with it, and I was like, "This is really cute, and we'll just keep going with it."
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Did anyone ever like come up and go like, "Hey, are we just here to break your game, or can I break my game too?" Like,
Yeah.
who's my?
Yeah, yeah, that happened a couple of times, but I mean, I think I did a good enough job when advertising it, you know, and signing up that people understood that, hey, you know, this is everybody's. But there were definitely a couple of, you know, walk ups that, you know, people were like unsure about what was going on. They're like, oh, well, I'll attend this thing. And then they would kind of ask me those kinds of questions. I'd be like, no, do you want to sign up your game for next month? And that sort of thing.
Okay, cool, cool. So you're talking about play testing and bringing games in. What just for those who might be listening in for the first time or just diving into the game world, what does it mean to play test? Like, what is a play test? How does it work? How does someone do that?
Play testing, I mean, in a nutshell, is the act of playing a game that's not finished, that's not hasn't been published, and you're trying to work out the kinks in it, make sure that all of the mechanics work, and you'll give feedback basically to the designer, who will then take that feedback and make the game better. Hopefully, you know, play testing is a process that uh, you know requires work between the designer and the play tester to work together to come up with things. And there are sometimes you'll be play testing and you'll make a suggestion, the designer will want to implement it right away, and then there are sometimes designer won't necessarily want to implement it right away. Might take a couple of times for people to give them the same feedback or whatnot. But it's a really fun thing to do because you know you get to get your hands in there and help make something better and have your voice heard. And it's kind of like this, like, have you ever like sat there and played a board game and
Never.
said sat there and played a board game and said, hey, I bet this game would be so much better if, you know, you get to do that before the game gets made, and then, you know, uh designer can implement those rules if it sounds good or if it works out. And you know, that kind of makes you feel good. Hey, I had a say in this part of this game and whatnot. So
Do you feel that this is just sort of a question I've kind of wondered about because it's hard to observe myself and I don't know if I've followed others in playtesting. So you've done playtesting for years. You've run playtesting events forever. For folks that show up regularly, uh, does the way they give playtesting feedback evolve as they kind of go along? Like like they start in a certain way and they kind of like, is that almost a skill set kind of, or is it just how it is? People
yeah,
just change how they communicate.
absolutely. Yeah, I've changed the way I gave feedback. You know, over time, I know other people have too. Kind of sometimes it's like when you're given feedback, sometimes you don't know what to say. Like, oh, this game's so great. I don't know how to give you any criticisms or feedbacks or whatnot. A lot of the times you'll start off with just like physical things of the game, like the colors are kind of weird, or it would be cool if this looked like that, or whatever. And then, kind of like as you get more comfortable and start doing it more and more and hearing some of the feedback other people are getting, you start picking up kind of like, oh, okay, well, then let's talk about these mechanics and how does this work with that, and can we tweak this with a couple of skill points this way, or this should be worth more because of X, Y, and Z. So it is definitely something that a skill that you do develop over time. I mean, I guess I could tell you like embarrassing story here. You up for an embarrassing story?
Hold on,
Um,
let me lean in. Let me get some popcorn and let me make sure I'm recording this for my own use later. Let me drink some water too.
yeah. So I mean, I love telling this story just because it highlights exactly what you just said. And so I tell it over and over again. So if you've heard me tell this story before, bear with me at least 10 more times. Um, but so we were play testing Wingspan for the first time at Break My Game, and was play testing with Elizabeth, and had a lot of fun. I thought it was really cool, but I said to her, Elizabeth, don't be afraid if a publisher is going to want to change the theme of the game, because I just don't think that there's a market for board games.
Ooh.
And she was like, well, I think there is. And then I think she took the game a few months later, and got it played at I think it was Gen Con or something like that, and she got in touch with Stonemeyer Games, and Jamie Stegmeyer loved it, and that's that the rest is history. So I've had to eat my shoe for those words.
Mm,
Um, but it just goes to show you that you're gonna sometimes you're gonna play test and you may say some silly things, and you may say things that end up being wrong, and that's okay too. And you learn as you go, and you do it does become a skill that you develop to learn what might be good feedback and what might not be some good feedback.
right.
Thankfully, Elizabeth, she took that in stride, and was like really resolute about her own decisions, and we have a wonderful game now because of it. But it's just kind of a funny story I like to tell, because you never know what you're going to say, and if it's right or wrong. But had I not said it, then maybe she didn't go to, she didn't get it played by Jamie Stegmeyer. She got played by, a bunch of other people, and they all wanted to change it. You
Mm.
know, uh, who knows what would have happened? But um, yeah, yeah, there you go. It's just a funny story I like to tell. So
I think it goes to show also that, and I can speak from a perspective on this too. It's really important to listen to feedback and take it and use it, but it's also important to know what your vision is. I think that's kind of something that you feel out through playtesting, and I think that can be very important for designers to keep in mind as they move across navigate that landscape. Um,
absolutely, yeah, you definitely want to be open to the suggestion and open to the change. And I do also want to highlight, how gracious she was when she accepted that feedback. Like, like it wasn't like, oh, you're absolutely wrong, I can't believe you would say something like that. It was like, yeah, okay, I think you might be wrong, but we'll see. I really like the theme, and I don't think I'm going to change it. But thank you.
Hmm.
And that it was kind of you know kind of top class. Like yeah, I didn't necessarily like. I didn't think that the feedback was that the best, but it is the opinion of the player.
Hmm.
And she respected that. She did prove me wrong, but she was so nice about it too, which I think is also kind of a skill that designers need to keep in mind, when receiving feedback, being gracious about the feedback that they get to. I think it goes hand in hand, both ways.
I
Be nice about the feedback you give, and be nice when you get feedback that you don't necessarily agree with or like, or whatnot.
100%. I will admit, I think there's a part of me that would probably have been a little petty in that situation. In the back of the rule book, I would have put "Told you, Daniel," but I I mean probably not. But I would definitely at least write it out and just sit on it for a minute.
To laugh about it now,
Yeah.
so that's good.
Yes. So I think you kind of touched on this, but and one of the things I wanted to talk about it is sort of like why is it important for designers in general to have their games play tested? Like, why not just throw the game out and publish it? Like, why is it so relevant? Why is it so important to do play testing outside of some of the stuff we've discussed already? What should designers really think about when they like say, all right, I guess I want to try this. Like, but why should I?
So the biggest reason is you don't know what you don't know. And that's like a hard thing to admit, especially nowadays. Um, we kind of pride ourselves on, being smart and thinking that we know what's best. But the answer is that we don't know what we don't know. We can't necessarily see the rough edges of things, especially when it's something that we've made, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'll take my own game for instance that I tried to design, 6 years ago. It ended up being a lot like Magic the Gathering, and it was hard to hear that, um, but it was useful feedback because when it comes time to publishing that, I would have probably had a very hard time selling it. Nobody would have want to touched it with a 10-foot pole because it was so much like the other game. um so sometimes you're going to get hard feedback and rough feedback, and you're not going to like the criticism. um but it's important so that you can see what you don't see about the game. um I think also, there's all kinds of other reasons, marketability. You get to, test market your game and see if you can get, enough of the market out there that likes it. Um, there's ideas that people will give you that you never even thought of, that end up going well. And especially if you're having trouble bringing your game to the next step, to getting it to a place where you completely like it. Maybe it's time to open it up to some other people's opinions. um so I think it's super important there because no person is an island,
Hmm.
and no designer is ever going to get it right on the first try. And I think it takes a bunch of people to kind of help gently polish those flaws until you get something that you like and is generally well accepted.
Right. Do this is just a question that I kind of wanted to ask. So I know you haven't really designed something in roughly about 6 years. Do you feel that as someone who doesn't design games but play tests regularly, your feedback might be different from someone who does design games regularly and give feedback? Do you feel like you kind of are able to tackle different aspects that might be missed or maybe come from like a unique mindset or framing?
Oh yeah. Um, I think that yes. The answer is yes. I especially like when new playtesters playtest games because they don't always have the same feedback that everybody else is going to give you. And a designer um, may give you feedback on the way that they would handle something or whatnot, but somebody I, I've seen some people kind of push back on that feedback because it's like, oh, well, you're trying to design my game the way you would design it. I want to design it the way I design it. With a playtester, it's not like that. I'm not trying to make a game. I'm not trying to, take your product or, anything like that. Or I'm not trying to turn your game into my game. It really comes more from a place of, wanting to work together and make it better.
Hmm.
And I think that some designers are more receptive to it that way. Um, the fact that I don't know everything is also kind of a good thing too, um,
Hmm.
because I can, you know, give a response, basically that it's purely my own opinion, or purely I won't say my own opinion because I have done it a lot I've done it a lot at this point.
Hmm.
And so as I said, I've learned some things and I've picked some things up. So, I would probably say that I've gotten to the point where, like, okay, these are the kinds of games that I prefer. So not probably as pure. But I'll tell you, who I love having playtest the best? I love it when kids can playtest a game. Like a 7, 8, 9-year-old kid can come up and play a game and they'll just tell you how it is because they don't have a perception of what a game should be, right? They just tell you, what they think about it, and you can ask them a question, and they're usually not afraid to give you a response on it too.
Mm.
And sometimes it can be like, "Ooh, that hurt," but that's what I needed to hear, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think that playtester's opinion, it can be different from designer's opinion. I mean, just like, you know, take the Golden Globes for example. You got critics who are going to say, "Oh, a movie should be this, and this is what makes a great movie," and the critics can give a you know 9 out of 10 stars for a movie, but the audience, you're like, that movie stunk, right?
Right.
Or vice versa. Critics hate a movie and audiences love a movie. I mean, so sometimes it's good to get somebody's opinion that's not inside your market.
Right. Help expand your horizons, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So just I think that's all really interesting. So my takeaway is really get a lot of different types of people to play test your game, and
Yeah.
and make sure that they're not people that are just designers. Make sure they're not people that are just you, like you. You want to get a lot of different perspective because it's the only way to really polish it to where it needs to be or could be.
Hmm.
Uh,
Right. If you polish it with the same grain of sandpaper, you're not going to get as smooth as if you were to change that up every once in a while until you get it to right where you want it.
right. Uh, so with all these years, because admittedly, I feel like I've been in the game for probably, I don't know, 2 years now, maybe 2.5 years, but I would say I've not been playtesting other games as actively as you. And so, as someone who's been playtesting games for like the last 6 years, what has changed in the industry of playtesting, or how has playtesting evolved or changed, or maybe even game design as well? Like, what are some of the trends that you've noticed?
Um, so as far as trends that I've noticed, well, I mean, the elephant in the room, COVID really changed things up a lot. A lot of people were paying a lot of money to, get games uh, play tested and go out to the printer, make a few changes, come back, get it, get it changed again, go back out to the printer, come back again. And now we have tools like Tabletopia and Tabletop Simulator, and oh, I want to make a change to a card. Okay, well, let me just adjust that file, push it back out to Tabletop Simulator and try it again tomorrow. So rapid play testing is able to happen thanks to the popularity that has grown for playtesting online as opposed to in person. Um, Now that being said, playtesting in person is not going to go away, and it's still going to be a big factor once we can do that again safely. Um, but I think that there's always going to be now this place where, okay, well, maybe my first few iterations of the game should be play tested in Tabletop Simulator because I can do that for cheap. And
Hmm.
then once I know I like where the game is at, now let's try maybe publishing or printing a couple of copies and seeing if I can get it in front of people's tables, that sort of thing. So I think that uh, there are those changes. And then, of course, you've got market changes as well. You know, some people get inspired because of the popularity of specific kinds of games. Um, we take apples to apples and Cards Against Humanity there. Like, how many clones of Cards Against Humanity have there become because of the success of that card game? Um, so like that's the market trend and the i- inspiration uh features from other games that have gotten published and turn around and will inspire another designer too. So
Hmm.
there's that as well. I mean, the the market's always going to change like that. That's something to be said there.
Okay. So before internet was dominant during COVID era, was there anything
Mhm.
that may have, like I said, because you've been doing it for a long time, was there anything that may have like I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this? As you did play testing events more and you had more folks showing up, was the way feedback, how it was delivered, did that change over time in public places and venues? Like, I imagine over the last 5 years or 6 years, like board gaming in general seems to have just exploded in this massive cultural and social way. And so I'm curious as if the influx of more folks kind of changed the general dialogue or how people looked at games.
Um, yeah, I think that, you definitely had more people that were getting more game savvy, right? Um, it's kind of hard for me to talk about that because like I've only been doing it for 6 years.
Mm.
Give me another, 10 years and then I can really tell you like
I'll
a lot of
revisit this.
differences and changes. But no, seriously, like as people became more familiar with the board game, so specifically on feedback,
Mm-hmm.
feedback can get better because the more board games that I play, the more I know how to talk about what I want changed about a game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's kind of hard to say that this game has an imbalance of, um, let's say, imbalance of resources versus the rewards I get for completing this quest. If I don't understand that that's what I don't like about the game, right? I
Right.
can just be like, this just doesn't feel balanced. Well, how does it not feel balanced? I don't know. It just doesn't feel balanced. So, the more people become familiar with the games, the terminology, the experience of playing it, yeah, of course that's gonna change. But I also think that that's more kind of just talking about individuals, not like
Mm-hmm.
overall trends. Um,
Well, Daniel,
So
I've marked you 10 years from now in my calendar. So, I get, if this podcast is still going on in 10 years, we'll revisit this.
hey, if this podcast is still going on in 10 years, I'm buying you beer.
I will. Noted. Let's see here. Honestly, speaking of the future in general, what's in the future for Break My Game? So, what are the plans next, and what are you hoping to accomplish here in the next couple of years?
Oh, well, in the short term, talk about the short term here. We got a couple of exciting events coming up for Break My Game. We're looking at doing unguided playtesting event where you can submit your games and playtesters don't have to have you there to play it. They read the rules, they play it, and then they give you feedback based off of it, so that you can be like hands off, and um, it's really good for testing your rules and your rule book there. So we've got that coming down the pipe. We've got all of our other events that we normally do, game jams, things like that. Um, we're looking forward to things being safe for people to get together. Once that happens, we would like to open up chapters of Break My Game in different metropolitan areas so that we can get in-person game testing going, and help as many people as we can. Um, after that, the sky's the limit. Who knows? I keep talking about having a Break My Game cruise in like 2022. Um, that would be fun, I think.
Hmm.
So who knows? We'll see how it goes. I think that the bigger that we grow as a community and as a company, um, the more we get people involved, the more things that we can do. And I hope that Break My Game becomes a major force in the board game industry. That would be something.
Would you say it would be a major force?
What would I say would be a major force?
I was saying, would you say it would be a major force?
What would I say would be a major force? I don't know that I would ever admit to that, if it ever does happen.
Hmm.
But
Well,
it's neat to hear, people say, "Oh, I heard about Break My Game. I've been wanting to, play with test with you guys for a while." And that's already kind of happening. Uh, Evidently in Australia we have a good following, and like lots of designers in Australia have heard about us, but
mhm.
we just don't have all of the events to be able to help them out. So um, it's interesting to see that grow. And I would like to say one day, well, so I would love to hear somebody say, "Hey, my game got published because they heard that I play tested with Break My Game." That would be cool. You know?
Right. Definitely. Well, I would say that coming in, I I think I can't even remember like how I found Break My Game. I think that the gist of it though was I went to Labyrinth Board Games in DC. There was a playtesting event, and I was like, oh, holy cow, I'm making a game. This looks cool. And then I was like, I guess I'll try to go to the next one. And so it was a neat random discovery just from seeing it exist. And so that was a really fun thing for me. So I will say, Dan, I consider what you're doing to be a major force. I think these sorts of things are important, and I love that how accessible you've made it and how welcoming you have been to people in the community and just folks in general who are interested in this. So thank you so much for that. Uh,
Oh, thank you.
Normally at the end of podcasts, I would ask if you have anything to plug, but I mean, you're the creator of Break My Game. It's the Break My Game podcast, but I'll
Well,
ask
we do
anyway.
have something.
Yeah,
We
feel
do have
free.
something to plug. We have a new website that's out. We've developed that. So check that out. It's a great resource that people can go and find out, when are we play testing, how can I get involved? If you're looking for a link to our Discord, it's right there. You can check out our other social media for that. So uh, we're hoping to, you know, beef that up, and we're gonna have content creators create some, articles and things like that. And we really want to get, a resource hub out there for people. So please check out the website. If you like what you see and you want to become involved, join our Discord and get involved with the play testing. And hopefully we'll be able to meet together one day and play your game.
Absolutely. So that website for folks listening in, that is www.breakmygame.com. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook, twitter.com/breakmygameg. That's BREAKMYGAMEG. Or same thing on Facebook, facebook.com/breakmygameg. We'd love for you to join us on social media. We try to put some fun things on there. And it's also another great way to keep up with the events we're hosting. Anyway, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. We're hoping to continue this series for a while where we'll be diving into the world of playtesting, and we'll be talking to designers of all sorts and maybe even some playtesters, and just sort of diving into the industry and navigating all the cool, wondrous worlds of getting feedback. How exciting. Anyway, I'm Matthew Hocker, and we were speaking with Daniel Palmer today. We hope you all have a wonderful time, and we look forward to playing games with you. Have a good one.